not just a random person who got to coaching. She used to play for the same school where she is coaching right now, and she was international student herself. So please welcome Coach Nicole Salazar, the head coach of Sterling University women's tennis team and true ambassador for international players everywhere. Thank you so much for joining today.
Thank you, Karine. I'm so excited to be here. I've never been in a podcast, so I'm so excited to, be a part of it. And I before we go any forward, I want to make sure that to let you know that what you're doing it's so valuable. And that you're such an advocate for college tennis, and I think it's really awesome that you're taking some of your personal time to share with people that have been in your shoes or in my shoes just about what the process is like, because I know there's a lot of misinformation or not enough information out there. So I just hope you get enough recognition because what you're doing is so cool.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I was thinking about it that whenever I tried to get recruited, I didn't know anything about recruiting process or like
Oh
different
yeah,
programs. So I really hope
absolutely.
that it will help
I
people
know,
to
I know.
find the
I
dream
agree.
place.
I was in the same situation. I know right now there's a lot of recruiting agencies that are super helpful for those kind of things. But in my time, maybe there were, and I wasn't completely aware of it, but I did the full process on my own. So, there is athletes out there that are also doing the process on their own. So I think this is just so worth it and valuable. So I'm so
Thank
excited
you.
to, get on
Thank
talking.
you. Perfect. Okay, well, I like to start this podcast with super random question that has nothing to do with like
Okay.
coaching or whatever. So, if you could have a dinner with any celebrity, who would you pick?
Oh wow. So I'm wondering if I should like keep it on the tennis thing and answer with with a tennis athlete, maybe like a pro athlete, or if I should go with something different. Oh my goodness. Well, if I could have dinner with any celebrity, I'm a huge Sharapova fan. I grew up watching her, and I had the opportunity to watch her in one of her very last matches over in Cincinnati quite a few years ago. And her vibe was just really shiny, and she was just really upbeat. So I think it would be really fun to like have something fun for dinner, like something unexpected or something where like you have to maybe do your own, like some Korean barbecue or something like that, where we like have to make our own stuff. And I think she will have, a lot of fun experiences to share just because the tennis area, and then she did her modeling, and then she is a business owner, and now she's a mom. So I feel like as a woman, it would be really interesting to just maybe chat with her. I don't know. You put me on the spot. I wasn't ready.
I'm glad that I had at least one question that you were not prepared for. I always
No,
like to hear like real
you had
answer.
to. You had to. I would have done the same. I would have done the same. Good job.
But honestly, I really miss this era of like Sharapova and her outfits on the court. I'm like, why Nike is not doing anything like that anymore? It was just
I
so iconic
know.
all the time.
Well, I am so thankful with, a fun outfit or some personality on the court. Like, we saw it with Serena with all those years of her fun outfits and her tutus and like everything. Well, now Osaka, she's playing again, and I feel like we see it on her hair and in her shoes. So I think some people take it as a little bit of silliness, which I mean it is, but I think it has so much personality. And all different players have their own things, but Nadal had his bands, and I think it's, yeah, the outfits. I'm a huge outfit person, so I think it just creates personality and it gives it a little bit more fun. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Especially, I feel like women's sport is always considered like, oh, you cannot wear makeup, you cannot be super extra. So I love right now you mentioned Osaka, like her last outfit um for Roland Garros, like with pink things, like these cute elements, is so fun. And like I wish
Yeah, yeah.
more
I think
athletes
it
could do something like
absolutely.
that.
I just think it's cool that players are willing to show their personalities in other ways other than just playing, because I think it's
Exactly.
important to give the players that outlet.
Yeah. Okay, let's dive a little bit more into your background. So, you were international student yourself. How did you get into coaching? How did you become student athlete at first.
Yeah, well, okay, so when I was 17 years old, I was born and raised in Venezuela, in Caracas, which is the capital of the country. So I was always used to a big city and busyness and cars honking and alarms and just this all this crazy noise. And when I was 17, I graduated from high school in 2017, and I was a foreign exchange student in Murray, Kentucky, right afterwards. So I did back home. We graduated in 11th grade, so I did 12th grade senior year over in Kentucky, which was definitely what shaped me and made me realize my dream had always been to play college tennis in the United States, but being in Murray, I was given all the resources I needed to make that happen. So I was there for a full year. I played for their with their high school team for a little bit. I was playing number one for the Callaway County high school team. Then a couple things came on the way, and I wasn't able to play anymore. So I started practicing with Mel Purcell, which was the men's tennis coach, the son of the men's tennis coach over at Murray State. I think that's correct. And I was practicing and training with him. And at some point, really late, I did everything really late. So that's why I'm a huge advocate of starting early. I recorded my tennis video on my own with my own camera. I edited it myself, and I posted it on YouTube. And then, obviously there was a couple programs that I was interested in, so I sent a few emails on my own. But mainly was just like, oh, I hope to hear back from people because I'm gonna get so like I at the time I didn't know how many other athletes were doing the same thing. I remember I was, super stressed because I didn't know what test I needed to take. I didn't know like that most schools have a registration fee, for application fee, I guess. So I was just really stressed about the whole process. At the time, one of my close friends from home, his name was Rafa. He played soccer here at Sterling. He was a huge help on this process, and I will forever be grateful with him because he took the time to tell me, okay, you're gonna need to take, the TOEFL, or you're gonna need to take the ACT or the SAT, and you're gonna have to, start emailing coaches, and one thing to led to the other. And he was like, hey, why don't you have you communicated with Coach Isaac, which was the coach over here at the time? And I was like, no, not really. And he kind of opened that door for me to start looking into it. I remember I graduated from high school in May. I had a couple recruiting emails, and I had gotten contacted by a few different coaches, but I hadn't made a choice by May still. I went back home to Venezuela for summer, and I was overwhelmed, so I didn't make a choice until later on. I remember I went on vacation, and coaches will be like texting me like, have you made a decision yet? You're coming to, you're like really close from starting time. And it wasn't until maybe mid July that I texted Coach Isaac, and I told him I was committed to come to Sterling. And because of the student visa situation and Venezuela, it was just complicated. At the time, they wouldn't send the F1s on email; they will send it only on paper. So they had to mail it from Kansas to Caracas, Venezuela, which was so time consuming. And I remember I had my appointment at the embassy, and my dad was coming with me, and I didn't have my F1 yet. So I remember our international student advisor had to like write a letter, and oh my goodness. Well, it was a whole process, but it was all worth it at the end. But because I started a little bit later, and I didn't, jump on it as early as I probably was supposed to, I did not get to Sterling until like I didn't get to do orientation because the full week of orientation I was still at home, and then classes started on a Wednesday, and I didn't get here until that upcoming Sunday. So I started classes about 3 days late. And I've always found myself being extroverted, and I think that was a really good quality to have at the time because I wasn't really embarrassed of getting to classes late because it wasn't my fault. It was beyond my control. But I remember, from doing a couple things later on, that doing orientation would have been so helpful, or like getting to know my teammates or the newcomers during that week where you're supposed to be doing those things. Or like going to class the first day of, my roommate thought that she wasn't gonna have a roommate because I wasn't there on time. It was just such a complicated process, but now that I look at it from an adult's perspective, I think, all of those things shaped my journey. So I got here in 2018, August of 2018, and I was here all 4 years. I played all 4 years. I technically had an extra year of eligibility because of COVID back in 2020, but I decided to just go ahead and graduate in 2022. And it truly was an amazing experience. The growth and how different the program looks now to when I was going to school is just unbelievable. I know tennis is one of those sports where there is a lot of international students, but I was the only international student my first year. My freshman year, I was the only international student.
Oh wow.
Then there was this guy on the soccer team, and he kind of wanted to play tennis, and he was from Paraguay, so now I wasn't the only one. And then from there on, we started adding up. But in today's program, we have 22 players, 21 players between men and women, and 3 Americans, and the rest are all international students right now. So it's just interesting to see how much the program has changed in the past 8 years.
Yeah, I saw your Instagram, like the tennis team Instagram, and in bio, you have like all of the flags of people from different countries, and I saw that I was like, oh wow, that's really diverse
Super
environment.
diverse, super diverse. Right now, I think it's either 12 or 13 countries, if you count myself as well. But everywhere. We have South America, we have North America, we have Asia, we have Europe. Like, we have kids from India, we have kids from Israel, we have Japan, Barbados, France, Mexico, Brazil. Like, it's just so fun. It's so fun. And the Americans have so much fun with them, and they're also such an important part. Our American players are such an important part of our program because I feel like they help our international students understand the culture. I think that's huge too. For us to be able to share our culture, and for us to be able to share our stories and how we do things and what things we eat and what things we say, but also for the international students, because they're living in the US and going to school in the US. I think it's also important for them to learn those things from our American players. So it's truly been a really cool experience just to see how different it was from 2018 to 2025.
Yeah, that's crazy. I don't know if you mentioned how did you come up with an idea to become a coach? Because you graduated with degree in graphic design, right? Is it correct?
Yes.
How
Yeah.
did this idea change and develop into
No,
coaching?
absolutely. Well, during the summers, I would go back. I would go to Dallas. After COVID, I wasn't able to go back home anymore, so I started going to Dallas. My uncle lived in Dallas, so I would stay with him. And in 2021, I got a job, a summer job, at a country club. And I was coaching little kids, and I was coaching camp, and I was coaching a couple private lessons. And I realized that I really enjoyed, teaching. I think it's obviously coaching, but teaching, I think it's the word that I want to use in this sense. I really enjoy teaching. So when I graduated with my degree in graphic design and photography, which I use thankfully every day on this job because I am the person that kind of manages, what we post on social media and that sort of thing, and the posters and the visuals, and the game day pictures. I do a lot of those things just because I want to make sure that I continue to use my degree. But when I graduated college, that's kind of what I was doing. I was coaching. And I experienced a lot of fun things while I was off college the past 3 years. And it's funny because before I left Sterling, I met at the time my boyfriend. And he is born and raised in Sterling, Kansas, which is crazy because I always said I was never going to come back because this is a small town, and I was smaller-ish town. I was used to big city, so I was just gonna go to the big city after graduation. Um, and I met my boyfriend, and he's born and raised here, and obviously we've been together going on almost 5 years. We got married last September. So it just this town has a lot of it attaches you, it sinks you in. I feel like I have a lot of emotional attachment to Sterling as a town and as a college, just because of all the things that shaped me into the person I am today. So In October of 2024, last October, my husband and I made a decision of moving back to Sterling for some personal reasons, but we were ready to kind of slow down, take a little bit of a slower pace of life, think about our future, going into the next 5 years and all of that sort of thing. And as soon as I came back, the position of head coach here at Sterling became available. And I was just like, maybe this is what's meant to happen. Maybe this is meant to be because it's too coincidental for me to not take it as a sign from Jesus. I am a huge believer that Jesus puts those kind of things in your radar for a reason. So I applied and I was, fortunate enough to be given this opportunity. And it's interesting enough because obviously I got a degree in graphic design, which is completely different. But I think the idea of teaching was always lingering. Either if it was teaching art or teaching photography or teaching tennis, the idea of teaching and sharing what I know with others had always been lingering in my mind. Right now, I'm just fortunate to have the opportunity to teach tennis and teach, just daily life stuff. I'm still young. I'm not the most knowledgeable person in the world, but I feel like I still can bring a couple very valuable things to this program. So I think that's how I ended up in this coaching position, just because I wanted to teach and teaching tennis, coaching tennis, just kind of was put on my path, and I just took it, and it's been wonderful.
Wow, that's a wonderful story, just going back and forth, and then you got back where you basically started your whole journey. That's insane. I understand
Absolutely.
what you mean by, oh, I never wanted to stay in small town, because that's something how I feel right now, because I'm studying in University of Central Oklahoma, which is in town called Edmond, nearby Oklahoma City. And I kept saying in the beginning, oh, I will never stay here after graduation. I will never stay in Oklahoma. And I still think the same way right now. But at the same time, like, well, I've spent almost 4 years in this place. By the time I will graduate, it will be 4 years. I've met so many people. I have so many friends. And I just have such a huge personal connection with this place. So maybe it's not that bad to be around,
I think it's
So.
always I think it's always worth it to at least have, be open of the on about the idea of staying. Like I don't think closing doors or living with the expectation of never coming back. I think it's always good to leave those doors open and leave the possibilities, just there, because you never know what life is gonna throw at you and what changes, or like the tables turn and things change. So I think always leaving places with an open mind and an open door and an open heart, it's huge.
Yeah, that's so true. Okay, let's go a little bit back again to the time when you just got to the US. Did you have any cultural or maybe athletic shocks when you just got to the US? Because I'm pretty sure Venezuela and United States are pretty different countries in terms of
Oh,
mentality and
absolutely.
everything else. So
Absolutely.
how was your experience adapting to it?
Well, I'll tell you this. I was more excited than what I was nervous, and I think that's important to tell everybody, especially young athletes coming from different countries. You know that you're where you're meant to be when you're more excited than scared. I was more excited than scared, and I was willing to take on whatever. So, Murray, Kentucky, when I was a foreign exchange student, was a small town. I went from living in the 14th floor of a building to living in a country house. Um, and of course, there was a little bit of cultural differences. But I think as long as, like, I was just always open to learn and to be open to whatever it was thrown at me. So I think that's definitely the better way to approach it. I think it's really easy to just think about, oh, the grass is always greener on the other side. But I think if you just play the cards that you're given and you're just kind of taking all of that and playing it however you can, because that's what has been put on your plate, I think that's the best way to manage those cultural shocks. Obviously, it was a little bit hard to get used to speaking English every day. From speaking Spanish to speaking English every day was probably number one. And dressing different, the cold weather back home. It was a Caribbean country, so it was hot all year round. So obviously, getting used to that cold weather, or eating different things, or doing my own laundry because I didn't have my mom anymore. Those little things definitely shocked me. At the time, my friends in Kentucky would be like, "Oh, you don't think that we have an accent?" And I was like, sure. I mean, I guess. I don't know. I've never been here before. Like, I don't know. And now that I've lived in different states, I'm like, oh my gosh, everybody has a different accent. And it makes me feel better about mine because I know I have a strong accent. So I think it's cool to see that within states, people also have different accents. But obviously, there was a lot of cultural shocks. In the athletic sense, I was always used to playing solo. Back home, there is team aspects, but I never played in team aspects. When I was back home, I always played by myself. At the time, there wasn't very many UTR or ITF tournaments, maybe two or three a year. So I always play solo. I was not a huge doubles player. I played a couple doubles, but I wasn't like it wasn't my main forte. So I always played singles. So obviously, I think one of the huge athletic shocks when I moved here was, oh, we're playing as a team, and I think obviously a lot of international athletes go through the same thing, because it doesn't matter how much I win if my team is not winning or my team is not doing good or I'm not supporting them enough for them to do good, because I'll win, but we're not winning that day. We're just going home and we lost because I won, but everybody else lost type thing. So just getting used to that team dynamic and learning that supporting your teammates is such an important part of high school and college tennis was definitely a cultural shock. One of the most fun ones, I would say. But yeah, just little things like getting used to not being in a bigger city. It's quiet. You can see all of the stars at night because there is no lights or like fog or anything like that. Just there is crazy cultural shocks, but there's also really good ones. So I think as long as you're open to whatever it's thrown at you and try to play it the best you can. I think that's the best way to probably go through those cultural shocks. But yeah, I think just what all international students will probably go through some cultural, differences. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned little things like doing laundry and etc. etc. I remember myself, I had to learn how to put nails into the wall, how to fix shower because water is stuck. There
Oh
are just so many
yeah.
things that you've never done in your life before, but you don't have your parents next to you who you can just go and, Mom, I don't know what to do, help me. So,
I
yeah, there's so many
know.
things.
Well, and I was fortunate because the time change it's an hour or two between where I've always been to Venezuela. You've probably experienced some crazy time changes because you probably wanted to call your parents and they will probably be sleeping or the other way around. So I definitely think on the other side, like everything that's on the other side of the world, it's just I take a lot of respect for my Europeans and from Asia and the continent like that are completely on the other side because the time differences is insane. Yeah.
Yeah, and but I think at the same time, you mentioned before in your time you were the only international student and everyone else was American. Right now we have more diverse team and you try to keep some Americans as well. But I think that's really nice because when I got to college, at first I was really upset. Oh, there is nobody from Ukraine. Like, who I'm gonna talk to? I'm not gonna have friends. But I think that was exactly what helped me to adapt to these cultural differences the most because, yeah, I didn't have anyone else who would relate 100%, but it helped me to adapt way faster to all of these changes and different
Yeah.
people because my freshman year, half of our team was American, half international. My sophomore year, we had only one American. This
Oh wow.
year in fall, we had completely international team, and then we got one walk on from the US, like from Oklahoma. That's it.
Oh wow.
So
Yeah, well, and I
that's
think
interesting.
an important part of that is to know that everybody in your team is going through the same thing that you are.
Yeah.
I can almost guarantee that most of your teammates have their families far away. I can almost guarantee a lot of them maybe didn't even know English when they came into this country and they had to learn it. I can guarantee that some people in your team, have divorced parents, so they have to, talk to two different to like two different calls every day. And I think it's so important to know that at the end of the day, everybody in your circle is kind of going through the same thing. So yeah, maybe there is nobody from Ukraine in your team, but there's probably, other teammates that are on the same boat than you. You know what I'm saying? Because everybody's far from their home. Everybody's trying this college tennis experience for the first time. Like nobody is fully knowledgeable on this experience that you're going through. And I think that's probably huge to just, keeping in mind that there is a lot of people in the same shoes as you.
Yeah, and I think that's something that helps to unite the team as well, because as you said, everyone experiences something like that for the first time. Everyone is far away from home, so it's definitely something that gives feeling. Okay, I have a family here, even though I'm thousands miles away from my actual hometown.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So yeah, we kind of started to talk that you think that your whole journey as a student athlete and then your experience coaching at the club helped you to shape who you are right now. Could you share a little bit more? What's your coaching philosophy right now?
Of what my can you ask that one more time? I couldn't hear you.
Yeah. What's your coaching philosophy? Like, what are some of the ways or mindsets that you try to follow?
Yeah. Well, I think something that I focus a lot on, just because I was a student here, and at the time, just how much growth the program has done. I think a huge thing as a part of my coaching philosophy, if you want to call it that, is the way that we carry ourselves outside of the court. I think character is such an important thing, and team dynamic is such an important thing in this sport, just because especially nowadays in our program, because we have so many different cultures, we have so many different personalities, we have different people. So I think it's important to make sure that even when we're not on the court, we're carrying ourselves to the highest standard. How do we want to be remembered? Yeah, we'll probably be remembered because we win a lot or because we lose a lot. But I also, and I tell this to the guys all the time, to the players all the time. I remember a lot the people that were nice to me, and I remember a lot the people that were not nice to me. And I think, I remember the people that helped me get up when I fell down or when I, hurt myself, the people that went on the other side of the court to help me. Or I remember the people that try to hit me with the ball on purpose when I was at the net. Like, just those kind of things are just so important. The people that I was able to have a conversation with, the opponents that I was able to have a conversation with afterwards. So I think the way that we carry ourselves is really important. Just what our character looks like on and off the court. I think whenever we go to class, whenever we are, anywhere, if you're wearing Sterling College tennis, I think it's really important. And even when you're not, what kind of character are you holding yourself to? How do you want to be remembered? If you were to not be able to play tennis anymore, if your career ended today, how do you want to be remembered? Do you want to be remembered just because of your tennis, or what else do you have to give? And I love that my players breathe and sweat and bleed tennis. I think it's so cool to be walking around the campus later at night and they are on the courts even when we're not having practice. And they are always watching tennis on their phones and posting things about tennis, and they're just it's such a cool environment, and I love that. But I think their character and what other things they have holding for themselves, it's a huge thing about the philosophy that I have going on for the team right now. Just how do we want to be remembered if our tennis career ended right now? And just because I see all my teammates from the time I was coaching, just transferring from a player to a coach, I remember all of my teammates for a lot of wonderful things. I remember some of them because of their tennis skills. I remember some of them because of their tennis technique. But I remember a lot of them for other things, by their character. How did they hold themselves? Oh, they were really smart. They were really kind. Those sort of things. I think that's the philosophy that I'm trying to implement the most right now, because of course I want to be remembered for winning a lot and winning conference championships and going to nationals and winning 7-0 every time. Of course everybody wants to be remembered for those sort of things, but after your tennis career ends, what do you want to be remembered from? I think that's kind of the philosophy we have going on right now.
I love that, and I don't think I've ever heard this answer so far from anybody else. So I completely agree with you. Most of the people, they will not go to play tennis on a high level after graduation. So that's completely understandable that you try to shape how they will show them and how they will present themselves outside of the tennis court. So
Right.
that's
Well,
definitely a
and
great
what I
mindset.
think about tennis, it's kind of a little bit of what you say about not everybody's going to go play pro after college. Just because tennis is a single sport and you don't go to play pro with your team, there's just one in so many chances that people will actually get, to play at those pro tournaments. I feel like with other sports where it's a team sport, there is more opportunity to just kind of be a part of a pro team. It that does not mean that it does not take hard work. Everything takes hard work to make it to a pro level at any sport. But I feel like with tennis or golf, because you're a single person and there's only, you only remember the top 100, and that's worldwide. So I think it's important that, if I don't get to make it to pro, or if after 4 years that's all I do, what else do I have holding for myself? How are people gonna remember me outside of tennis? So yeah, I think it's just important to have it in mind, just because I love, is what I say. I love that the guys bleed tennis, sweat tennis, cry tennis, but at the same time, tennis is what brings you here. But what is your end goal? What's the finish line? Tennis is what brings you here. Tennis covers your tuition. Tennis gives you a scholarship to be a little bit, for you to be able to go to school with a little bit of more financial help. But what's the finish line? Where do you want to get from there, type thing. So I think that it's always important to just keep it in mind. That's what I preach to my players all the time.
Yeah, and especially in college gives so many opportunities for you to grow outside of the sports.
Oh yeah,
So I think it's crucial to be able to explore all of these opportunities and, take the best out of your four
absolutely,
years of this experience.
absolutely.
Okay, you mentioned that your players have a strong character not only on the court but also off the court. If you had to describe your team culture as a cartoon character, who would you choose and why?
Oh, okay, okay, that's funny. So I think, you know just because we have so many different personalities, and you never know, like, every day looks so much different. I think I jump on the court for practice ready. I know what to expect. I know what these guys are gonna throw at me, and then it's just completely different. Like, okay, I was not ready for anything of what happened today, in a good way. In a good way. I think the guys joke around and they love each other and they're brothers and sisters, and they have such a cool dynamic, that I will probably say, it will probably have to be something funny. Like, okay, I think I have a couple. So I think maybe not a TV show, but like a movie, like the Minions. I think would be a
Oh,
wonderful way to describe them, just because they're all doing the same stuff in such a different way, and they all speak so different from each other, and they are just, the minions gibberish that they're always like talking to. And even myself with our accents, it just, there's so many different things going on. And even though they can be super silly sometimes, and they can, look like they're destroying stuff, at the end of the day, just everything just kind of falls together and works out perfectly. So yeah, maybe it looks a little bit chaotic at first sight, but at the end of the movie, everything kind of works out how it's supposed to. I think, that just, and just think about the minions. There's ones that are taller, shorter, skinnier, chunkier. That's exactly what our team looks like. Everybody just looks different, sounds different, is different. So, but everything just kind of works out at the end, even though with the silliness and everything. I think that would be a good one. And I will probably also say Phineas and Ferb from Disney. And I think that I'm the sister. I think I'm the older sister, the Candace. I don't want to see myself as the mom because I'm still young, but as the older sister, I show up and then they're doing stuff that I'm like, what? Where did this even come from? How are you doing these things? What made you think like that? And they're just, so nonchalant about things that they do or say, and in my head I'm just like, what? I think that would probably be another one.
these are very funny answers. Um, I loved Minions for sure, and I think it describes every single team pretty well. Like that's so funny. But
Yeah.
then when you put up Phineas and Ferb, I love this series growing up. It was my favorite one. How chaotic they were all the time, and
I
then you said that
know.
you're like a big sister who comes and what's going on out there. That's such a perfect,
Yeah.
straight to the point description. I love it. Okay, so you have a lot of people going on. You said you have 22, right?
21.
21. Um, what are some of the values or standards that are non-negotiable under your leadership? What's something that your players cannot do, or what are some of the things that they have to value?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think at the beginning of the season, obviously, I took the job over in December, so I started this past January, and this is probably something that I'm gonna continue to implement for some time. And I've gotten a lot of wisdom from other really really successful coaches in our school. Um, I don't think I have a copy of it right here. I give everybody at the beginning of the season a binder. So this one's mine. It just says Coaching Binder 2025. But at the beginning of the season, I give everybody a binder with their name and just a bunch of information about those kind of things. What things are non-negotiable? What things we are doing? What things we're not doing? What's gonna bring you trouble? What's gonna help you succeed? So I think a couple of the things that are probably non-negotiable is respect by all means at all times. I think being respectful to your teammates, to your opponents, to your coaches, to your professors, to your trainers at all times, it's really important. I think tennis at the NAIA level, we don't always have officials there to make the calls. So I think we have to do a good job about, it can get heated sometimes, but how are we going to approach it in a respectful manner? Sometimes me and the players don't agree in everything. How am I going to be respectful to the players to prove my point? How are they going to be respectful towards me to let me know what they're trying to say to their professors, to their teammates? I think respect is probably one of those non-negotiable things that let me just do this. One of those non-negotiable things in our program. I think something else would probably be commitment. I think it's really easy to see when somebody is no longer committed. Yeah, you're playing, yeah, you're going to school, but are you committed to this team? Are you showing up on time? Are you going the extra mile to get things done? Are you giving your different 100% every day? I think that commitment is really important, and it's also non-negotiable. If at some point, and I'll give everybody a couple chances to prove themselves or prove me wrong. But if at some point I can tell that you're just no longer committed to the team, that is probably a non-negotiable thing. I think showing up on time. I tell this to my guys all the time, and they make fun of me because they think it sounds funny. But I think 15 minutes early is always on time, and on time is late. And then late, I always say late is just really really late. So they just make fun of that sentence. But those sort of things show a lot of commitment. If I'm showing up to practice 15 minutes early because I want to make sure that I have my shoes on, that I re-grip my racket, that I have my hat on, because by the time the practice starts, I'm ready to go, then that shows me commitment. Going to the gym outside of weights and conditioning, or pulling your teammates to be like, hey, let's go on a run, that shows me commitment. The fact that you're keeping up with your grades and also keeping up with your tennis also shows me commitment. The moment that you start falling everything apart, then it kind of lets me know that you're no longer committed to me, to our team, to your teammates. So I think commitment is definitely non-negotiable. So yeah, respect, commitment, and everybody's going through that process of growing. So obviously, decision making, it's hard. Sometimes we make decisions because we're young and we're growing, that then we kind of regret, and we're learning. So sometimes we say things or we do things and we're like, oh my gosh, that wasn't very smart. But just that character, I don't like poor character. I don't like when we're doing things that we know we shouldn't be doing and we do them anyways. Or so just respect and commitment and character, those are all non-negotiable things in our program.
So you put all of these three things in your how do you call it, bind, the
Yes.
thing that you told me.
Yes.
Okay,
So in
so
that
you have
binder,
it
I
written down.
always Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's written down. Let me see if I have a printed copy in my binder. I don't think I do because didn't print it for myself, which I probably should have. Um, but I give everybody a copy of the practice schedule. I give obviously everything's subject to change because weather changes and things change. But I give everybody a copy of their practice schedule, a copy of their weights and conditioning schedule. I give everybody, our what are our goals of the year, what are our expectations academically, athletically, and character wise. So I have everything kind of
Mm-hmm.
written down because I think there is no mistake. It's written down. You can't tell me I didn't tell you. I gave it to you on paper. You have it right there. So yeah, those things are definitely on that binder. And then just our match schedule is on that binder. Our right now I'm working on our team bonding activity schedule, our fundraising stuff, or our community service. Everything's right
Mm-hmm.
there just so they have something to go back to and make sure that they have it written down. And I'm young, so I always have my phone around, so if they have questions they know they can text me.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's in the binder, you should probably read it before you text me and ask me.
That's so funny. And it looks like it's a huge book of information, at least like from the
Well,
outside.
my
Uh,
okay, don't get scared. Mine is bigger because I have a ton of other things that they don't have. Theirs definitely
okay.
looks a little bit smaller. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, don't get scared.
Okay. Okay. Does your team have any pre-match rituals or maybe team superstitions or traditions that you follow that are not,
I
written on this binder?
on the binder. That's really funny. Well, as far as traditions, I know they do their chant, which I think is really cool because they came up with it a couple years ago. So I think it's cool to see them bond over that. They get all
Mm-hmm.
together and then they get really loud right before the match. We make sure we pray. So we pray right before we go into chanting. When we play home matches, we have our speaker and our microphone, so we go over our starting lineup 1 through 6 for singles and 1, 2, 3 on doubles, and we go through the starting lineup for the opponent team as well, and we play "Let's Get It Started" by the Black Eyed Peas. So that's kind of the
Mm-hmm.
pump up song that we play. Then we pray. They go straight into their chanting. So I think that's kind of one of those traditions. And as far as superstitions, I don't think we have a team superstition. Maybe they do that I'm not aware of, but I do know that some of them personally have their own things. So, like, I have a girl player that practices with a pair of shoes, but plays matches with a different pair of shoes, and those are her match day shoes. Then I have another girl player that always plays with a specific color overgrip, and she overgrips her racket before she plays every match. I have a guy player that wears socks that match his headband. So every time he has to make sure that he wears his long socks and they match whatever headband he's using that day. Um, I think those are a couple of the ones that I can think of right away. But I think that's like their personal superstitions. I know when I
Mm-hmm.
play my senior year, I play with a pink overgrip the whole season. So I make sure to always have pink overgrips in my bag, and I will overgrip my racket way too much, like way too much. Um, but I think those are a couple superstitions and traditions. Just we just make sure that we try to start on a good note by being thankful of the good things and just kind of be ready and pray for the adversity. So if we know we're playing a really
Mm-hmm.
good team, just kind of pray over health, because obviously playing a better team means that there is more risk of injuries or more moving or more playing harder
Mm-hmm.
or playing faster. So obviously praying over health, praying over weather, if it's cold or if it's too bright or too sunny or if it's too hot, just kind of praying that we can um, go through it and be fine with the weather and just overcome those sort of things.
Mm-hmm.
Or just make sure that we're thankful for those things. If that day is just a sunny, perfect weather day, just make sure that, okay, today we're thankful because it's a beautiful day. It's the best day for tennis. Today is the best day for tennis.
Mhm.
So I think that's a very important part of our tradition, is just praying over the adversities or the hard things that we think that we can face that day, and being thankful for the other ton of good ones that day. So I think that's a pretty important part of our tradition as a team.
Mhm. That's so awesome, and especially that you do like both sides of the game. It's not just like praying for just one thing. You do, and for things that might be a barrier, but also something that is good. That's awesome. And I love that you introduced lineups for both of the teams for home matches, because why they do this for volleyball, why they do this for soccer and for basketball, but they don't do it for tennis. That's
Right, right. Well, and I think there is this stigma that tennis is an underappreciated sport. And I feel
hmm
like there's a lot of people that feel like that. But I think that the sport is only underappreciated as you make it. So,
hmm
obviously, we don't introduce lineups in the past. Why didn't we? So we go out
hmm
of our way and we make sure that we have our speaker out loud and clear, and we have our microphone and we have our camera and we're ready to do it. Or, oh, why doesn't the tennis team do this? Okay, how can we do it? Because we want to do it too. So I feel like
hmm
we're there is sports that are only as underappreciated as they want to be. I feel like if you have a
hmm
coach that supports your ideas, if I have, a superior, a boss, an athletic director that supports my ideas and is willing to work with me, I think there is a lot of room to make tennis more appreciated.
hmm
Absolutely. You just have to be willing to go through the adversities and kind of fight a little bit to make some stuff happen. But I
hmm
think everything, like, yeah, I just think it's a stigma, and you can just kind of break
hmm
through if you're willing to, type thing.
hmm Yeah, we have only one team in our conference who does it. And I think, yeah, this year it was our second time playing at their place. And it's just so fun, they introduce and then like all the stuff, the same way football girls do, it's so fun. And I just wish it was more um, popular for tennis teams as well. I talked to some of the people from our school why we're not doing it, and they kind of made a joke that we have so many international players, and it will be a struggle to pronounce everyone's name. I don't know.
I gotta give it to them. I am I 100% agree. When I am gonna introduce, I know how to say my players' names, obviously, but when I'm gonna introduce, or when we're gonna introduce, either me or my assistant coach are gonna introduce the other team, I make sure to kind of run it by their coach and be like, okay, is this how you say it? And we are open about making mistakes here. Like, we know that we are gonna mispronounce some things, but we try to make it fun. Like, we try to interact with the players. Oh, okay, there you go. We try to interact with the players, and we try to be like, oh, well, my bad, buddy, how do you say your last name again? And like, we're making it a joke from the microphone all the way to the court. So I think, yeah, I mean, I gotta give it to them. Sometimes we have some last names and some names that are just super difficult to pronounce, and I think that's fair. But I think you can also make it fun, because I think sometimes the players know that their names are hard to pronounce.
Yeah, my name, like, not the one that I have written down, because my original name has Y instead of I, and I've heard so many versions of my name, which is, one letter changed. What can be difficult about it? But I think it's so funny, and I think it also gives you a good spirit before matches, because everyone laughs. It's so funny that, oh, they mispronounced your name again, and yeah, I think it's definitely a good spirit, and
Yeah,
just
yeah,
gives this fun attitude
absolutely,
for
absolutely.
match. Okay, let's dive more into the recruiting part. And you're being an international student yourself, so we will focus a little bit more on your advices for international recruits specifically. So to start off, I would like to ask, you're the one who does all of the recruiting process, is it correct? So what are
Yeah.
some of the qualities, physical or psychological personality traits that you're looking for in international players?
A couple of the things, I do some of the recruiting. My assistant coach also helped me with some of that this season. Obviously, she kind of just sends me the profiles that she of the kids that she's talking to for me to um, overlook. But a couple of the things that I'm looking for, I think communication is the number one thing. I think a lot of recruits, or a lot of players get a lot of different offers, and they get a lot of, they're talking to so many coaches and they're talking to so many people. Some of these kids also have recruiting agents that are telling them kind of just like, how to approach some conversations. But I think communication, the way that they communicate, it tells me a lot of things, because obviously um, I don't want to bring a player here that I kind of experience some miscommunication or lack of communication with through the recruiting process, and then they get here and I have the same troubles with them once they're here. So if they have good communication skills, like from the beginning, making sure that they are communicating with me about what's in their head. Are you liking our offer? What do you not like about our offer? What are things that we can do to make you come here? What are things that you like, that you do not like? What are you looking for in a school? As long as you're communicating with me, I think I think that tells me that, a lot about your personality and how you carry yourself. As far as, tennis and like the actual sport itself, and athletics, I think when I'm watching recruiting videos, I think one of the first things that I'm looking at when they're playing on the baseline is just like their feet. I think the way that they move their feet right from the beginning in their video is gonna tell me a little bit about their game. I think when I see really good strokes and I see some really really good form, but I see a lot of slow feet and lack of footwork, I know that's something that we're probably gonna have to work on, type of thing. So I definitely look, as far as the athletic part, I definitely look at some good footwork, because I think that's probably one of the most important things of tennis, is just how much you're moving and how ready are you, or how early you're getting to those balls because of your footwork. I think something that definitely needs to be talked about, and I think I'll touch it later too, is, their UTRs. I feel like a lot of profiles are just like their picture and their UTR and their budget, and I feel like there is so much more that goes into it than just UTR, budget, and a picture. I think, I feel like my honest opinion is that UTR can be deceiving. And I think sometimes you live in countries where you play one or two UTR tournaments a year, so you're not really showing your full potential. We had a kid from Japan that got here with no UTR. And whenever he opened his UTR account, he was a 2 UTR. He played maybe 4 or 5 matches during the fall, and he immediately jumped to over a 9 UTR. So, those are the things that I'm trying to say. I know a lot of coaches, recruit based on UTRs, because the higher the UTRs are on your UTR page, also tell other future recruits kind of what the program is. I think it's deceiving. I think it's a little bit misleading. I see some UTRs and then I see the kids play, and I'm like, okay, that's definitely misleading. I We had a kid with maybe an 8 UTR, a boy, and he went undefeated this past season at the number 3 single spot, playing against way over 8 UTRs multiple times, and still winning and still doing so good and playing incredible matches, but you wouldn't know it from the UTR roster page. So I think UTR is good to just kind of have a basic idea, but it's definitely not the first thing that I'm looking at. I'm looking at your video, I'm looking at your footwork, I'm looking at your communication, and I think another really huge thing that I look on the recruits is the kind of questions that you're asking. So right now, and it might look different, because obviously these kids have several different coaches talking to them, and this is a very important step in their life. So maybe I feel like they're coming to Sterling and maybe they end up going somewhere else. But right now I'm talking to a kid from Australia. That's probably one of my favorite recruits lately. He just the way that he communicates with me, the way that he asks things about the program, about the town, about the school, about the weather. He texted me a couple of days ago, and I was like, Coach, I would like to start sharing my tournament results with you. And I was like, I would absolutely love if you share your tournament results with me. I want to keep up with what you're doing. Absolutely. So just the kind of questions that you ask when you have a recruiting call with a coach, I think those are important because it it shows the coach what kind of values and what kind of things you're really worried or are really important to you. I think asking the right questions will let your coach know or the recruiting coach know what's important to you as a player and as a person and as a student. I think yes, those are probably a lot of the things that I look at, and just from personality and conversation, does it look like this personality is gonna be a good fit with the team that we currently have? And that can change because obviously everybody is in their comfort zone, everybody's in their homes, and whenever they come here, they kind of just have to adapt, and they end up being better fits than there's more good fits than bad fits. I feel like. But obviously that personality just kind of lets me know, oh, this guy or this girl is definitely gonna get along with like these people from the team. So I think that just the way that their personality is, just kind of picking up on some trends or like what questions they ask is important. Their communication, their footwork, those are probably a couple of the top things that I'm looking at when I'm recruiting.
Yeah, that's so interesting that you're mentioning questions because I would kind of assume that it's something that people are supposed to do, but I have experience helping out other athletes to get recruited to colleges, and I would connect to phone calls with coaches just with the purpose if they don't understand some of the things related to finances or the whole process that I can help out because I already have experience in this field. And at some point, for me, it became crazy that I had to tell these people to prepare questions and that they should do some type of the research and come up with something they would like to know about the school or the college who they're going to talk to. And I've been asking these questions, similar questions, to multiple coaches, and everybody tells me the same thing that recruits don't ask enough good questions. Everyone just wants
Yeah.
to know, oh, how much money you're gonna give me, and that's pretty much
Uh
it.
huh.
But
Yeah.
what if you
Yeah.
have the exact same offers? How are you gonna choose where you would like to
Right.
go? So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and I think, um, there is a lot of players, especially nowadays, that are in that exact same situation. They don't ask enough questions, and then they're given five different offers. They all kind of look similar, and they make their choices based on, oh, this is an NCAA D1 school, this is an NAIA school, this has better results, this is not top 15. And I feel like it goes way beyond those things. I think, and not because I coach at the NAIA level. I think it just goes, JUCOs, NAIA, NCAA, just there is a lot of, oh, D2 and D3 are just completely different. Or D3 and NAIA, I just want to go D3. And I get it. When I was getting recruited, I was like, oh, that's what I want to go Division 1. If I don't play Division 1, I'm not going to play college tennis. Why would you miss out on the opportunity to continue to play your sport at the high level that not everybody gets because it's not a Division 1 school? I think it's really cool when I see athletes or friends or kids get recruited for these Division 1 programs because Division 1 programs have so many fun things and good opportunities. But I think if you're not recruited by a Division 1 coach, are you just gonna not give yourself the opportunity type thing? And I had a lot of friends back home that weren't able to experience the things that I experienced because they were just so stuck up on, I only want to go to a Division 1 school. At some point you just have to kind of choose. And I think NAIA is getting a lot more competitive. JUCO has always been competitive as well, but I think right now NAIA, JUCOs, D3s are getting way more competitive, and then they're getting a lot of higher level players because I think slowly but surely that stigma of like if I don't go D1, I'm not going anywhere is kind of just slowing down. So I think it's just you know asking those questions so it goes beyond of all the results you saw online, or it goes beyond other UTR page, or it goes beyond D1, D2, and AIA. What are the things that you're looking for in a school that are beyond those three categories? And you only get to those things by asking questions. And I try to be graceful because at the same time a lot of these kids are only 17, 18 years old. So sometimes they don't know what questions to ask, and that's why I always try to make sure that when I'm talking to an international player, I try to have their families there, or at least one of their parents sometime, or their recruiting agent if they're talking to a recruiting agent, just so they can have somebody to just kind of encourage them to make those questions or make any extra questions if they can't think of anything, because I do try to be graceful. They are 17, 18. I have a 17-year-old brother, and I know that if my 17-year-old brother had a recruiting call right now, he would probably struggle with those questions too. But if you know you have a recruiting call on Friday, why don't you sit down and you look at that program and you're like, oh, okay, I saw these things, but these things are not so clear. I'm going to write a couple things down. I think that's important for international students to know. Asking questions is going to let that coach know so much about you.
Yeah, and you said about that you wanted to go just Division 1 and nothing else. I had the exact same thing. I was so committed. Okay, if I'm not going Division 1, I probably suck at tennis. I'm so bad, and all of that stuff. And then whenever I got recruited to Division 2 school somewhere in Oklahoma, I felt so embarrassed to tell people that I'm not playing Division 1 and I'm playing Division 2. But right now, after 3 years, I realized it really doesn't matter where you're playing. It's about how you use this opportunity and how you live this experience, because I saw statistics, and the percentage of athletes who actually make it to any level in college is really, really low. So it's
Well,
such a
and
unique
I can
opportunity.
almost guarantee you have friends back home that did not have this opportunity. You're probably one of the few that were able to do these things. And I tell that to my players all the time. Everybody knows at least more than one person that is not getting this opportunity for whatever reason. Whatever reason, everybody has different, call it they weren't able to maybe financially afford it, or they weren't able to get their international student visa, or they only wanted to play D1, so they just decided to not. Whatever the reason is, if you're playing a collegiate sport, you're being given an opportunity of a lifetime. Not everybody gets these sort of opportunities, and it's just not only about tennis. How am I going to maximize these 4 years to try to get as many opportunities as I can, on the court and off the court? Like, am I gonna get involved in any extracurricular activities? Am I gonna get into any clubs? Am I gonna try to take extra classes, get a major and a minor? Am I gonna try to network for the future, to make connections? Am I gonna try to make friends outside with other teams, other coaches? So in the future, I tell these guys, if you want to go to Venezuela, you have a home in Venezuela because you've met me through Sterling College. And I think just those things, how are you maximizing your time, is just super important.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you said, it's such a unique experience. I don't think there's any, especially for tennis, playing individually your whole life. It's unique opportunity to experience being part of the team, and then
Oh yeah.
you can always get an access to go watch football and basketball and so many other sports, and then you have friends here, 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 there. I think honestly, probably coming to the US was my best decision I've ever made in my
Oh,
life,
absolutely.
and I would never change anything about it. So
Absolutely. Well, and I think it's so fun, like for a lot of international students to experience college tennis, because college tennis, I feel like, is different to any other kind of tennis you've ever experienced before. Even like, um, even professional tennis, high school tennis, individual ITF, UTR, USTA tournaments. College tennis is a different beast. I think it's just such a fun, like, environment, and just like such a cool experience. And seeing other sports coming to watch our tennis matches and be ready to just like be super quiet the whole time, and then out of nowhere everybody starts cheering. They're like, what's happening? And they get so excited. So seeing other sports come to watch our matches is just like, it's so rewarding for me as a coach to see how other people can enjoy it too. We have a thing right here. Our mascot is the Warriors, so we're Warriors, and we have this thing that's called Warriors Supporting Warriors. So out of everybody's sports schedule, baseball, softball, football, everything, there is one time that everybody's just kind of required to go. All other sports are required to attend one football game, one basketball game. And that football game, that basketball game, that tennis match sets up the rest of the season for everybody to understand what's happening and just continue to attend every time. After our first Warrior Supporting Warriors, we're starting seeing so much more people show up because some people just think that tennis is just quiet and, it's boring and my neck hurts at the end. But they have so much fun just because college tennis is just such a different experience than anybody thinks. So it's really cool, just what you say, how our players make friends with people in other teams, and we go to watch other sports, and sometimes we haven't experienced those sports, so we're all learning and cheering. And it's so funny when we start cheering for things that we were probably not supposed to be cheering for. Like, I remember when we had our baseball game that we were supposed to go watch. I'm a huge baseball fan. I love watching baseball. My husband is a baseball player. But some of my kids were like, okay, so what are the squares? And why are they running? What do they have to do? And they will be like clapping at the wrong things. Like, we will get an out on the outfield and they will be like, oh yeah. And I was like, no, we did not want that to happen. And it's just such a fun experience.
That's so funny. Okay, you kind of mentioned that you don't really look at UTR whenever you recruit people. So, what are some of the ways for international students to stand out if they don't have opportunity to play UTR or ITF tournaments?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a good recruiting video is probably the best thing, and a good introduction to yourselves. Call it posting it on any like YouTube or recruiting pages or Facebook recruiting groups, whatever you do with that video, the way that you present yourself, I feel like it's so important when you don't have maybe a good UTR or you don't get those tournament experiences. So I think a good video where you introduce yourself at the beginning, you kind of say how old you are, where you're from. I've seen some really cool videos where they say maybe what their best stroke is and what they want to study. The more information that you give a coach when you don't have a UTR, the more information you give a coach with your video, the better. So, and making sure that you're captioning it. Sometimes I see videos and there is no email, there is no phone number, there is like no info, like I don't know where this girl is from or this guy is from, and then I'm like searching on Facebook and searching on Instagram and trying to see if I can see a similar face from the video on Instagram to kind of try to get a hold of them through there. So if you give me your phone number, your email, if you have a tennis Instagram, I have a couple of my kids that are like huge on their Instagrams and their tennis, post it there. What's your best stroke? What's your where are you from? What's your age? If you already know what you want to study, put what you want to study. That way maybe the coach already knows that we offer that program or we don't offer that program. I feel like the most information you can put out there on that video, the better. And it doesn't have to be anything fancy with an expensive camera. I think it just has to show what kind of player you are. A couple baseline shots, volleys, overheads, serves from several different angles, a couple like match point plays. Just, it doesn't have to be a 25-minute video. It can be a 8-minute video, 5-minute video that shows, some good tennis and some good information. And I think that will make you stand out.
Awesome, that's a great insight because I'm pretty sure UTR for the most part it's such just an American thing. Or if you play ITF tournaments, then it also counts towards UTR system. But there are so many countries or just kids in general who are not able to travel a lot. So that's awesome that you shared how they can help themselves to still get recruited and still have.
Yeah, well, and I talk to other coaches in our conference, outside of our conference, from other states, and everybody just kind of agrees. Yes, UTR is important because I feel like sometimes if you have 10 people in your team and your UTRs are, maybe not necessarily super high, whenever you're recruiting, those players you're recruiting are going to look at those UTRs. And sometimes they're going to make those choices based on, oh, am I going to be the best UTR in the team? I've had that question 2 or 3 times. And I'm like, maybe when you get here, because that's kind of, what you see, but then you play with our players and you'll realize, oh, okay, actually, never mind. And whenever we are doing like voting for like first, second team honorable mentions, we as coaches, we know that just like what I was telling you, I had this UTR boy that was undefeated. We couldn't make the choice based on his UTR because obviously it was super, super misleading. So I think the UTR stigma needs to end. I mean, I understand and I think it's important for some things. And I respect a lot of the coaches that think that this is the main determination for it, for recruiting or for your team. But I think it goes way beyond it, way beyond.
That's awesome. Yeah, that I'm glad that there are a lot of coaches out there who still
Yeah.
think that UTR is not the most important thing that you will
Oh, yeah.
have. Okay, before we jump into the last part of our podcast, which will be the game, is there anything else that you would like to share about yourself, about your program, about your team that we haven't covered?
You know, I think probably something that I would like to share, especially for anybody or any athletes watching, maybe current tennis athletes that are currently in college, or kids that are like coming into the recruiting process. I think it's really important to know that sometimes staying put and staying and going through the hard things and going through the hardships and the difficult circumstances and just kind of um, learning how to deal with those things builds so much character and it builds so much of your life. I think right now, and you've probably seen a lot of it, there is so many athletes at all sports in the transfer portal. There is so many kids looking to transfer. I do think it's important to find the right fit for you. And I think if you're not having a good experience and you're just not connecting with the team or something like that, I think it's important that you find a place where you're going to be happy. I think being happy with your experience is so important. But I also think that is what I said earlier. Grass is not always greener on the other side. Grass is greener where you water it. So you've been given an opportunity to play at a specific place. And, I feel like the fear of missing out on something better is what ruins the most beautiful things in life. Call it relationships, friendships, college sports. There is always a place that's going to give you more money. There is always a place that maybe has a better program. There is always a place where they're going to offer you, you're going to be in the starting lineup and you're going to play every single match. Those situations are going to come multiple times in your college career. But learning that maybe you were put in a specific place for a reason and going through those hardships of like, oh, well, maybe I'm not playing so much this year in the lineup, but I'm going to work my way up so I play consistently next time. Or, oh, well, maybe my team is not winning as much. I want to go to a program that maybe wins more. Yeah, but are you going to help this team succeed? Do you want to be part of this progress? Do you want to be a part of something that can be so much more? Or, oh, those sort of things. I think it's important that the athletes here is that sometimes you're put at places and you deal with the hard things and then it ends up being so much more rewarding than going somewhere else and thinking that the grass is greener and then getting there and being like, oh, actually never mind, the grass would have been greener if I just water it. So I think just for young athletes going into, newcomers going into freshman year of college tennis, or current athletes that are looking maybe to transfer for whatever reason, I think knowing that you're going to be put in harsh situations regardless of where you are, it's really important. Regardless of what school you go, regardless of if you transfer or if you stay, regardless of if you go out to a D1 program or on an NAIA program or a JUCO program, you are going to be put in hard situations at some point of your career. How are you going to deal with those? So I think it's really important for athletes just to know that it's part of life. And you'll see it a lot when you go out of college into the professional world. You're going to be put in uncomfortable situations. You're going to be put in weird environments with your superiors. And sometimes the way that you deal with those things and the way that you say, okay, never mind, I'm going to water this a little bit more until I can make it better, just says so much about yourself. So I think, I am so thankful for the program that we have. I am excited to continue to build. I'm excited to continue to recruit and get more athletes. I know this was my first season, but I look forward to 20 more. I definitely found my career path with this position, and I am just thankful of what we have right now, and I'm thankful of the things that we don't have yet but we're building towards, and just of this opportunity to be able to share with you and with all of your audience and all the people watching what our program is about. I think, Sterling College, as a college, we work on creating servant leaders, and we work on, making sure that our athletes have a purpose in Christ, and that our athletes are also, their character, and it's not all about winning. It's not all about tennis. It's not all about your sport. It goes beyond that. So I think, we have such a caring and loving environment here, and I think I tell my players all the time, I care about them on a personal level. I care about them as athletes, and I care about the way that they perform on the tennis court. But I want to make sure that all of my athletes know that I love for them and I care for them. And even if they were not to play anymore, I am still going to take care of them in a personal level. So I think having somebody as a teammate, a coach, a trainer, a host family, a professor that cares for you and that you can connect with is probably one of those things that you want to start looking at earlier on in your college career, because finding somebody that cares is so valuable. Um, but yeah, I guess I overextended. I'm a yapper. I'm a chatty person. So, but yeah, I think that's probably the last thing I would like to share.
And that was a great message, especially like for newcomers and people who would like to transfer. I really like what you said, and I think it's definitely something people should consider while before coming to college, but also while being there as well. Okay, so for the last part, we have a game that's called Kiss Mary Kill College Tennis Edition. So we will have 3 rounds, and I'll give you 3 different scenarios, and you have to choose which scenario you would kiss, marry, or kill.
Okay.
So for our first round, 6 a.m. practice, bus rides longer than 6 hours, and post-match team dinner at Olive Garden.
Okay. Oh, that's an easy one. That's an easy one. I'm gonna marry a post-match dinner at Olive Garden for sure. For sure. I am gonna kiss 6 a.m. practice. And I am definitely killing any rides that are longer than 6 hours, because oh my goodness. As somebody that drives the vans and somebody that drives the bus and cannot sleep on the way, I am definitely that's far gone.
Yeah, I think it's crazy. Everything more than 3, 4 hours, I cannot imagine how
Oh,
our coach can drive, and I cannot imagine how you can
oh
drive for so
wow.
long.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially after
A lot of
matches
Red
when you have.
Bulls and Celsius and snacking on the way.
That's the life of the coach. Okay, for the second round, limits on practice hours, line calls that are definitely out but somehow in, and double faults on dues.
Oh, okay. What was the first one?
Limits on practice hours, like that you can practice only 20 hours per week.
Okay, I am gonna have to marry limit for practice hours just because the only other two options are not good. So we're gonna marry limit on practice hours. Um, I think okay. Remind me the last option.
Double fault on dues.
Oh, oh, okay. I'm gonna kiss double faults on deuce because I think those are fixable. I think we can get the next day and we can get on practicing and do second serves for hours. But I'm definitely killing bad calls. Those are so frustrating. They're
I
frustrating
know.
as a coach. I know they're frustrating as a player. And if you don't have a official there to at least get it over with, it can escalate. And I am such a hater of bad calls. So yeah, we're killing the bad calls. We're kissing um the double faults, and we are marrying. That's funny. Anyway.
Again, for the last one, um, first will be watching your teams, yeah, your players' TikToks for hours, then having recruiting calls at midnight with a different time zone, or team group chats that never stop buzzing.
Ah, okay. We okay. I have short span memory. Tell me the options one more time.
That's okay. First one, uh, you are watching TikToks or like TikToks, I mean videos, social media of your players for hours.
Okay.
Second one, recruiting calls at midnight with a different time zone. And
Yeah.
third one, team group chats that never stop buzzing.
Okay, I think I'm gonna kill the group chats that never stop buzzing. I think we have a pretty good philosophy in our team that our team group chat, with me in it, it's specific for information, important information. They send a couple jokes here and there. They know they have to be professional about it. But the buzzing from being a player and being in a group chat with boys, we're killing the group chat. Um, I'm gonna case the midnight calls. Um, because I'm still young, so being late up until late doesn't bother me as much. It definitely bothers me the next morning, but I've had to do it. When I was, finishing off my stuff with one of my Japanese players at the beginning of the year, we had to do so many of those. So I'll kiss those. And then the last option, what am I marrying? I can't remember what I'm marrying.
That you're watching TikToks of your players for
Oh
hours.
yeah, definitely. I'm marrying the TikToks. Those are so fun. Sometimes like the kids themselves do so many TikToks as a team and as a group, and we have so many fun ones going on. But sometimes on my own time I'll be scrolling on TikTok, and out of nowhere one of my kids' TikToks will pull up, and I try to scroll down and not watch it, but sometimes they're too funny and I'm like, oh my gosh, do I tell them that I watched it? Is it weird, or should I just move on with my life? I wasn't even searching for it, it just pulled up there. But yeah, I'm definitely marrying the TikToks. They are so fun.
Okay, hey, well, I hope you had fun playing this game. It's my first time implementing it,
Oh
so it's really
no,
fun.
this is so funny. This is so funny. I hope you can continue to come up with scenarios to ask other coaches, because there is so many. There's so many different ones. If you need help, let me know. I can probably come up with a few.
Perfect, perfect. I would appreciate any help. But that was pretty much it. That's all I got for today. Thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate your time. I know it took us
Yeah.
a while, so
Yeah, sorry. You got the most chatty coach ever. I am so
oh, I
sorry.
love it. I love people who can talk, who I don't have to ask 5,000 questions to get information. So,
Right.
no, I
No,
definitely
hey,
enjoyed this time.
I enjoyed it so, so much. I hope, this can get out to somebody that needs to hear it. I think what you're doing is so special and so valuable and so important. And I hope that take this as encouragement to continue to do it, because some people just kind of fall on it, and you are doing such a good job. Um, and I'm so thankful that I had the opportunity to be here with you today. I am thankful for what you're doing, and I really hope that, some of the things that we talked about today get to the people that need to listen to it. That's for sure.
Yeah, thank you. And for all of the listeners, below this video, I will leave a bunch of links for school's website, for tennis website, as well as social media. We heard that you're doing social media, so everyone has to check out your graphic designs for sure out there. And I'll see you in the next video. Yay!
Free audio post production by alphonic.com.